Hi, in today's session we can see something about the database side. Okay, so even though you being a full stack engineer, like you work more on the front end and back end, but you may need to work sometime, on the database side, like you need to write your own queries. So when you write your queries, the SQL queries, either as a SQL procedure or as a statement, prepare statement, right, executing a query. You need to make sure, right, you are doing some exercise on the SQL to improve the performance of that query. Okay, so there are many factors which we can think about to improve the performance, but some of the basic factors which we can think about to improve the performance, like we can discuss. So before jumping into the factors which we can think to improve the performance, let me tell about some of the factors which actually may impact the performance of the SQL query. Okay, so one of the factor is, like if you have a table of 50 or 100 or 500 rows, it may not be an issue. But if you have thousands or 10,000s or millions of rows, then the size, the record size is actually going beyond the limit, right? So in that case, if you do a simple select query, itself will be a big issue, right? Like it has to scan the entire record and bring back that record back to you, right? So the table size really matters, okay, for the performance of a SQL query. The other thing is, when you are using joins, the joins we mostly use to connect between two tables, right? Like join two tables and we take a common data and do some aggregations, or we do a number of things. Okay, so when you are joining, okay, let's say I have a 10 rows in a table and I have a million rows, like not 10, like let's say like I have a 500 rows in a table and 500 another rows in another table, right? When I join, it is like the result set may end in, like if I have a 500 records and 500 records, it's almost like I have 1,000 records in a result set I may be having, right, based upon what type of joins I am going to use. So again, like, yeah, so we need to that is another factor which we need to think about when using joins, like when join two tables in such a way that that increase the row count of the result set. And the third factor is aggregation, of course, right? So when we aggregate a group of data and take a result out of that, there is a lot of computation logic on there, right? So again, that may break up your performance. Okay, so so these are the main critical factors, like table size, join, and aggregation. Now let's see, like, what are the different factors we can add to our query to improve the performance, right? So obviously first we need to try to find out we are going to play only with a valid data, not with a number of invalid data, right? So for that, it is always better to add a filter in your query, right? Like instead of doing aggregation with all the data, like maybe you can filter the data mostly what we do, like we don't want to do computation for let's say like I have a consumer table, right, customer table. I don't want to consider the customers who I created like 10 years back or 20 years back, right? I just I'm very much interested to see the behavior of customers last 2 years, right? So I can reduce that. I can add a filter saying that the years is last 2 years. That way, like, I'm reducing the number of records in my query. So apart from using filters, again, never use a star, right? Never use a star in your select query. where star is like you are selecting all the records and adding to your result set, which is again going to be a performance hit. So select only the records which you need, right? That will give you a massive improvement in your performance. Okay. And the other thing is what happened when we write a SQL procedure, right? So we try to join multiple tables, and we do a lot of exercises to get what a business want. Okay, but once we achieve that requirement, maybe sometimes we forget to fine-tune our query to see whether all the tables which we used to join, right, is really used as part of the logic, like it is whether it is really required, or we can get rid of that table. Like we may not be doing that exercise, so it is always advisable to do that exercise, like fine-tune your query to see whether all the tables is mandatory in that particular SQL procedure. Okay, so that way, like, you can avoid scanning through another table, right? That may help you to improve the performance. Okay, and the other one is obviously index. So if you are index is mainly we are adding to avoid entire table scan, like you just go and hit that particular index and fetch that data, right? So there's a lot of things we can think about index, but at a high level, okay, add index only when required and make use of that index. Okay, and last but not least, so we already discussed about this factor, like when you join two tables, okay, where one table is having a lot of data, another having a less data, when you join, again you're going to create a bulk of data, right? Instead of that, you need to think about whether you need the table with a very big rows, right? So you need to think about can you reduce the size of the record before joining with my table B. Okay, a table A having, let's say table A having like 10,000 records, table B is having just 100 records. So before joining these two tables, you can think about, okay, can I reduce the number of records in table A to 200 or 500 by adding some filter, and then if you join with the table B, then that is really helps you to improve the performance. Okay, so that is what we are doing here, like do a filter right before join with the actual table, so that way you get a good performance. Okay, so these are the different things, like reduce the table size, make use of filters, make use of index, don't have unnecessary columns in your unnecessary columns or tables in your query. Okay, just you make use of only the valid columns and table names in your query. Okay, and have whenever you play with a join, be very careful, like you are playing with you are filtering the data before you're going to play with the data. So yeah, so these are the few points which I can think about when we want to improve the performance of SQL. Okay, but you have any other points, please share with me in this comment, so I can have those in my notes. Thank you. Bye.